Hey guys, I'm Vince, and I wanted to talk today about the novels of Charles Bukowski. They're some of my favorite books. He's one of my favorite writers. I've got almost a complete collection, I think. He wrote a lot of poetry, and he wrote 6 novels. The first one, Post Office, probably one of the ones he's most famous for. Kind of follows his autobiographical, like, self-insert character Henry Chinaski, and it takes place in the 50s up until kind of like the late 60s, and kind of follows him as going through odd jobs, relationships. It kind of, the first part of this book kind of follows his first marriage, and but the main focus is his time in the post office, which lasted about, I think, with Bukowski's actual life, he worked for post office on and off again for about like 12 or so years. But it's kind of just like a meandering story about drinking, writing, relationships, and like shitty jobs. I would really recommend reading this. There's not a lot of character development, but his writing style, there's a lot of humor to it. It's kind of crude, very blunt, kind of to the point, right? But I really enjoyed this a lot. I would give this one 5 stars. I haven't read it recently. I first read this like back in 2023, 2024, but I really enjoyed it. It's probably my favorite one. Excuse my dogs. Probably my favorite one out of all 6 of his novels. And pretty much all 6 of these, except for Hulk, the last novel that he wrote, are all about Henry Chinaski. And this second one, Factotum, serves as kind of a bit of a prequel to Post Office and kind of follows Chinaski from the late 40s into the 50s, and it's just pretty much more the same, kind of odd jobs and affairs with women and stuff and drinking. The difference is this kind of follows more of a period where, based on Bukowski's life, where he was kind of like traveling around the country looking for work, and he kind of bounced around from like places like New Orleans and New York and stuff, but ultimately he ended up back in Los Angeles. This one's probably a little lower on the list. I'd say it's like my 4th. I would still give it 4th favorite, that is. I would still give it about like 4 stars, and I think honestly all of these are worth reading, but not one of my like top favorites. The 3rd novel he wrote is Women. This one's kind of based around a period of his life where he just started to pick up steam in his writing career, and so he had, in real life, he had met this guy that was starting Black Sparrow Publishing with the intent of publishing Bukowski's work, if I'm not mistaken. And this guy said that he would, I forget his name, but he said that basically he made a deal with Bukowski, like, hey, I'm gonna give you like a stipend of a couple $100 a month, as long as you're like home from writing full time. So this kind of follows that period of his life when he first started being able to have all this free time, wasn't having to work odd jobs. And it's a little more focused on his relationships with a few different women. There's like an odd mix of like shorter affairs, but there's like 2 or 3 like bigger relationships that this book works on, or focuses on, my bad. And then well, I'd also give that 4 stars. It's like my 2nd favorite of his novels. And then the 4th novel that he wrote, Ham on Rye, probably one of my 3rd favorite. It is a kind of a departure from the other novels, as it kind of it follows his childhood, from like there's moments where he's kind of like a toddler up until he's in college, and I really enjoyed this. It kind of helps you like see like how he went from like this kind of youthful, bright, like curious kind of like kid, and like was kind of like you know, he had a hard life as a child, but you know, it kind of shows that he's not just this gruff dude. He's got a little bit of heart to him. You can see how he starts to build up that exterior, that rough exterior. It is a very good book. I would recommend reading it. I'd also give it like about 4 stars. Now, silly dogs. Now the 5th one here, Hollywood. Probably out of the Chinaski novels, my least favorite, although I think it's worth reading if you're like kind of just a fan of the other books and kind of just an acolyte of Bukowski like me. It kind of follows Chinaski as he's tasked with writing a screenplay, and he's kind of mixing in with like Hollywood producers and like directors and actors and stuff, and kind of this is based on like Bukowski's experience writing the movie Barfly. I think that movie starred Mickey Rourke and Faye Dunaway. That was also a work that was focused on Henry Chinaski. But that movie came out in the 80s. I don't think it did super well commercially. It's kind of like a cult classic, I think. Nowadays, I don't know. I've watched it. It's not too bad. But yeah, this kind of follows that kind of time period, and he's like, Chinaski is now married, and he's older. He's kind of like in his 60s, I think, and he's kind of just like, hell, I'll do whatever, as long as it makes me some money, right? But he kind of gets involved in the movie making process, and kind of a little fun adventure. He's got some quirky characters. Now, the last one he wrote right before he died is Pulp, and this one is definitely kind of, it's kind of a send up to like old kind of like detective stories and stuff, like Pulp Fiction novels. It is very goofy. It's very like kind of ramshackle writing. In fact, he dedicated it to bad writing. So he's kind of taking the piss on this one, but it is kind of like, seems like to be somewhat of a reflection on mortality. But this one follows a private eye. I forget what his name is. It was kind of a spoofy book. It's very weird. There's some like very kooky things that happen in it. It's very fun. I would rate this over Hollywood, but I think I gave both Hollywood and this about 3.5 stars. I read these are the two I read most recently, Hollywood and Pulp. I think all of these are honestly decent books. I would really mostly recommend Post Office, Women, and Ham on Rye, but I think if you like the writing style, it's definitely worth reading all of them. I think Charles Bukowski was a very good writer. I would recommend also some of his short story collections. His poetry is pretty interesting too. But basically, overall, I would consider most of these some of my favorite books, and I just wanted to share. I don't see a lot of people talk about this, but anyway, thanks guys.